The Thousand Year Blood War arc introduced us to one of the most powerful villains in the history of Bleach. This of course is Yhwach, the father of all of the Quincy and the emperor of the Reich. When the Reich launched their first invasion of the Soul Society, they completely overwhelmed the Gotei 13, destroying their forces with ruthless efficiency. The Quincy's ability to steal Bankai had rendered a lot of the captains effectively powerless, and Yhwach himself had defeated and killed Head Captain Yamamoto, the most powerful Shinigami. But just when it had seemed like the Reich had achieved total dominance, something very unexpected had happened. At the very moment when Yhwach had Ichigo at his mercy, shadows began to drip from his body, and YHWACH, his second in command, had informed him that they had reached their time limit for operating outside of the Shadow Realm. Despite Yhwach protesting that they should definitely have had more time, the Quincy Emperor was still forced to retreat. This sudden withdrawal had puzzled a lot of Bleach fans, including myself. Why would such a powerful force retreat at the height of their advantage against their opponents? This apparent inconsistency has often been misinterpreted as a plot hole or some weak writing on Kubo's part. Some fans assumed that it was merely a convenient plot device to spare Ichigo and to allow the Soul Society some time to recover. However, after I had done some research, there is actually a logical explanation which fits perfectly within the narrative, and it adds a lot of depth to both the world building of Bleach and Yhwach's character. So be sure to stick around until the very end of the video to find out the mystery behind why Yhwach had needed to return to the Shadow Realm. But you know who doesn't need to return to the Shadow Realm? Those of you who have subscribed to the channel. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Only 20% of the people who watch this content are subscribed, so definitely up those numbers. If you enjoy this content and you want to support me, then please do subscribe for more Bleach content just like this. The Schatten Bereich, which is German for the Shadow Realm, is a secret dimension which exists within the Serite itself. What makes this realm so unique is that it cannot be detected or accessed by the Shinigami under normal circumstances. The Shadow Realm is actually a parallel space which is hidden within plain sight. The origins of this mysterious Shadow Realm trace back to the aftermath of the first Quincy Shinigami War, which had occurred over 1,000 years before the main storyline of Bleach. After Yhwach's defeat at the hands of Yamamoto and the original Gotei 13, the surviving members of the Quincy needed a safe haven where they could rebuild their forces without detection. Rather than fleeing away from the battlefield, the Quincy had ingeniously created a hidden dimension within the Soul Society itself. The Shadow Realm functions as both a refuge and a strategic base for the Quincy. The Shadow Realm houses Sealburn, the ice-encrusted palace, which serves as Yhwach's headquarters, along with an entire city which is populated by the Reich forces. Now, this secret dimension isn't just a hiding space for the Quincy, it's a fully functional parallel society where the Quincy have been plotting their revenge for over a millennia against the Soul Society. What makes the Shadow Realm such a brilliant strategic base is that it had allowed Yhwach and his invisible empire to bypass the Soul Society's formidable defensive barriers entirely. There was no need for the Quincy to infiltrate into the Serite since they had always been within the shadows of the Serite. Now, this is the reason why they are referred to as the Invisible Empire. They are an opponent who is able to strike from within at any given moment, catching the Shinigami completely off guard when they finally reveal themselves. The relationship between Yhwach and the Shadow Realm appears to be symbiotic in nature. While it's never explicitly stated within the manga, there are several clues throughout the narrative which suggest that Yhwach's presence or his power is linked to maintaining this hidden dimension. When examining the unique abilities of Yhwach, this connection becomes even more apparent. His fundamental power involves the distribution and absorption of fragments of his soul. Yhwach is able to share pieces of his soul with others, granting them abilities while simultaneously creating a connection which allows him to reclaim those fragments of his soul upon the death of that individual. This flow of power between Yhwach and his underlings may extend to even the Shadow Realm itself. There is a theory that suggests that the Shadow Realm is essentially sustained by Yhwach's power, just as he distributes his soul to the Sternritter through their Shrift abilities. He may well be channeling a portion of his power into maintaining the dimensional separation which keeps the Shadow Realm hidden from the Shinigami. This would explain why his physical presence within the realm is periodically necessary in order to reinforce the dimensional boundaries and to prevent the Shadow Realm from collapsing. Now this connection does align with Yhwach's portrayal as the literal father of all Quincy. Just as his blood and soul create and empower his followers, his power likely creates and sustains the very realm that the Quincy inhabit. When shadows began dripping from Yhwach during his confrontation with Ichigo, it visually represented the shadow realm calling him back, unable to maintain its integrity without Yhwach's presence beyond a certain period of time. In chapter 514 titled Born in the Dark, Kubo provides us with some crucial insights into the time constraints which Yhwach had faced. As Yhwach had Ichigo at his mercy and he was preparing to deliver a finishing blow, the shadows began leaking from his body. YHWACH approached and informed him, "Your Majesty, we've reached our limit, it's time to return to the Shadow Realm." Yhwach's reaction to this news is surprising, as he appeared genuinely shocked, insisting that they should have had more time. This wasn't part of his plan, as he truly expected to have longer to complete his objectives during the first invasion. Now, his genuine frustration in this moment suggests that this is a limitation or a weakness in his power which he simply cannot avoid. The time limit that Yhwach is forced to adhere to also connects to the Kaiser Gesang, or the Emperor's Song. This is a prophecy which describes Yhwach's power restoration cycle. The Quincy Emperor's Song states that after being sealed for 900 years, he regained his pulse. After 90 more years, he regained his intellect. After 9 more years, he absorbed the power of all of the impure Quincy, and after 9 days, the Quincy Emperor would regain the world. This prophesized set of numbers suggests that Yhwach's power operates on specific cycles and timeframes. During this point in the story, Yhwach had not fully recovered all of his power. The Almighty, his most powerful ability, wasn't activated until much later in his battle with Ichibei. This incomplete restoration likely contributed to his dependency on the Shadow Realm and the strict time limit for operating outside of it. As we see more of Yhwach, particularly during the second invasion of the Quincy, his power does end up growing, and so does his ability to overcome this limitation, which is tied to the Shadow Realm. Now, in a brilliant twist, we learn that Sasuke Aizen played a critical role in disrupting Yhwach's carefully calculated timeline. Before confronting Yamamoto and the Gotei 13, Yhwach had in fact visited Aizen in the central Great Underground prison Muken. This was in order to offer him a position amongst his forces, as he had considered Aizen to be among the 5 great war powers. Though Aizen had declined his offer, this seemingly brief encounter had some far-reaching consequences. When Yhwach realized that he had to retreat due to time constraints, he suddenly understood that Aizen had altered his perception of time during their brief encounter. What Yhwach had believed to be a short conversation actually consumed much more time than he had realized. Aizen's manipulation via Kyoka directly impacted the invasion timeline, forcing the Vandenreich to withdraw before achieving all of their objectives. Even while Aizen was bound and imprisoned, he managed to subtly assist the Soul Society by sabotaging Yhwach's plans. This wasn't due to loyalty to the Shinigami, but rather because Aizen had his own ambitions, which had conflicted with Yhwach's vision of destroying all of reality. Aizen wanted to reshape the Soul Society in his image, not to see it obliterated. And the most important reason as to why Aizen had refused Yhwach's offer is that he doesn't like the idea of being controlled by somebody. While Aizen was restrained and sealed, he was still able to use his Zanpakuto Kyoka to create an illusion which had affected Yhwach's perception of time. You could say that it was thanks to this subtle intervention by Aizen which had allowed for the Soul Society to have enough time in order to recover and to prepare for the second invasion of the Quincy. This is something that is often overlooked by fans, but Aizen's role during this portion of the story was a key factor in determining the fate of the Soul Society. If that didn't happen, Ichigo may not have had a chance to train at the Royal Palace, and the Shinigami wouldn't have had that time to rest, recover, and train. What makes Yhwach a formidable antagonist is his ability to learn and adapt from setbacks. His strategy accordingly changes for the second invasion, as he fundamentally alters his approach to overcome the Shadow Realm dependency that had previously forced him to retreat. So rather than sending his forces out from the Shadow Realm again, Yhwach completely transforms the Serite by replacing it with the Vandenreich city. As he explained to Ichigo and his companions, the Quincy did not need to find a way to break through the walls of the Serite because they had always been inside of it. By decomposing the reishi particles that made up the Serite, they revealed Silburn and the Vandenreich city, which had always been hiding within the shadows. This brilliant change of strategy had solved the time limit problem entirely. Instead of venturing out from the Shadow Realm, Yhwach had brought the Shadow Realm with him, as he effectively eliminated that time limitation which had previously disrupted his plans. This allowed the Vandenreich to maintain their assault indefinitely against the Soul Society without fear of needing to retreat due to that time limit. This proves just how dangerous Yhwach is as an opponent. When faced with a limitation, he didn't just work around it, he fundamentally changed the rules of engagement in order to turn one of his weaknesses into a strength. Because after having done this, the Shinigami were no longer familiar with the terrain that they were fighting in, and it was the Quincy who had the upper hand, as the Shinigami were forced to fight in their environment. So you can see from this explanation that this was far from being a plot hole. Yhwach needed to return to the Shadow Realm, and it serves as a brilliantly crafted narrative device which adds a lot of depth to both the character of Yhwach and to the overall narrative of the Thousand Year Blood War arc. This initial limitation provided a logical reason for the Vandenreich to retreat during the first invasion, thus allowing the Soul Society enough time to prepare for the second invasion. This weakness also served to humanize Yhwach as an antagonist. Despite his godlike powers, he still operated within some limits, as he wasn't all-powerful from the very beginning. These limitations forced him to be strategic and to plan carefully, and to then evolve his approach over time as he regained his powers. And when Yhwach had eventually overcome all of these limitations, it had made it feel so much more impressive and threatening. So yeah, while a lot of you may think that Yhwach having to return to the Shadow Realm was an inconsistency in the story, this was actually a carefully planted seed which Kubo had bloomed into a crucial element of Yhwach's character growth. His ability to transform a weakness into a strength demonstrated why he was one of the most powerful opponents in the series, not just because of his raw power, but because of his intelligence, adaptability, and his foresight. And this is without him even acquiring his Shrift ability, the Almighty, which is literally foresight incarnated. So yeah, we've reached the point of the video where I do want to hand over the discussion to all of you. Are you satisfied with this explanation as to why Yhwach had to return to the Shadow Realm? If there's anything that I've forgotten to mention, then let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and if you did enjoy this one, then do be sure to subscribe to the channel for even more Bleach content just like this. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all in my next Bleach video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.